It's the radio guy, Mike Prince, and it's another Football Friday. Welcome to the Open Mic Broadcast Network. Of course, our social media handles for Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter are all at the Mike Prince Show. The YouTube channel is Open Mic Broadcast Network. Our website is obnradio.com, and our 24-hour dial-in message line, 713-570-6736. And without any further delay, we're going to jump right into today's episode. We've had a full week this week with interviews, and we have an even more impactful weekend scheduled for you on the Mike Prince Live Sunday night, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. We have scheduled to be back on board with us Mickey Clayton of Insights. He is a former men and women's basketball coach as well as athletic director from Rattler Nation. And we have scheduled Sheldon Hodge, member of the 1978 FAMU Rattler National Championship team. So be sure to join us 6 p.m. Central Standard Time right here at the Open Mic Broadcast Network. We're going to take a real quick break, and we'll hear the Delta Report presented by Terry Coleman, and we'll be right back with more of today's episode.
Terry Coleman with the Delta Sports Report. SWAC adds Florida A&M as a full member effective the 2021-22 academic year. This Valley State football at Nicholls State on September the 5th. Nicholls State will pay Valley $100,000 guaranteed for the contest. Alcorn State football. Alcorn State at Auburn on September the 5th. Auburn will pay Alcorn State $475,000 for the game. Programs ineligible for postseason play with low APR. Fairview football, Alabama State men's basketball, Alabama A&M men's basketball, men's track and field, and women's soccer. Grambling and Southern men's track and field. Women's basketball. Texas A&M and Texas will play this season for the first time since 2014. And Terry Coleman with the Delta Sports Report.
And we do thank Brother Terry Coleman making the news and notes worthy going on with the Delta Sports Report. That will be an additional feature here at the Open Mic Broadcast Network, as well as the Southland Report that will be presented by Rob Butler later on throughout this episode. But there were a couple of things I wanted to make note on. Texas A&M and Texas engaging in athletics since the infamous breakup 2014. It was really some heated and bad blood between the two institutions going their separate ways. It's good to see that come back. Now it's just a matter to see will that transition over to the gridiron. And it was also mentioned about Mississippi Valley taking on Nicholls State. Nicholls State is going to guarantee Valley with a $100,000 payday. But then the big one that stuck out was Auburn paying Alcorn $475,000. But the trick to that one is that game was scheduled for September 5th. So we'll see if that game, if it is pushed back right now. There are talks that if the season is to pick up, some of the early games, which are historically the money games for FCS programming, will probably be canceled. We'll keep a close eye to see how that unfolds. They're still making a mad push for fall sports to pick back up. But there are a series of questions that are looming, at least from people that I've been in discussion with, and I've even reached out to some of the administrators at Prairie View to try to get some answers to the questions. Question number one, with the return to campus policy, how will testing be set up? How often will the test be given? And what are the plans if someone shows up positive? Also, wanted to reach out and find out what, if anything, were some of the HBCU campuses were doing throughout the various communities in the awareness of the racial division that's throughout the nation. It's one of those things that people don't like to talk about it, but we might as well get it out in the open so we can get down the road that much faster. And there were a couple other tidbit questions that we had out there. We're waiting patiently for the response from Prairie View officials. But meanwhile, we're going to be kicking the can down the road, reaching out to each and every one who's willing to participate. And speaking of participation, we're going to take us a quick break, acknowledge our supporters and underwriters, and we'll be right back with more of Football Friday right here at the Open Mic Broadcast Network.
Serving the community through faith and athletics, the Open Mic Broadcast Network.
I'd like to take this time to recognize our sponsors and supporters at the Open Mic Broadcast Network: Brazos Valley Schools Credit Union, Temple of Refuge Ministries, Prairie View Athletic Club, Attorney Lee Van Richardson, Farmers Insurance of Hempstead, Texas, Diva Skin Conditioner, Helping Hands Lawn Service. Thank you for your support of our local and regional coverage of student athletics here at the Open Mic Broadcast Network.
This is Rob Butler with your Southland Report. The STS playoffs have come to be the unofficial North Dakota State Invitational, but it will not change how on Selection Sunday, November 22nd, 24 teams will jump on the road to Frisco, Texas, a bunch even harboring championship dreams. Now I'm looking in the crystal ball early to see which teams from the Southland Conference can be expected to qualify for the field. First, I have Central Arkansas as the Southland champ. Now here's a fast fact. The 2019 co-Southland champ was the only playoff team to average under 100 yards rushing per game. They averaged 88.8, which was ranked 118th nationally. Their pivotal game this season is Nichols at home on September 26th. Next, I have Nichols as an at-large qualifier. Fast fact, as a sophomore last year, Julian Gums set program records for rushing yards over 1,200 and rushing touchdowns with 16. Their pivotal game is at Central Arkansas on September 26th. Next, I have Sam Houston State as an at-large qualifier. The Bearcats' 99 wins during the 2010s were the second in the FCS to North Dakota State with 137. Their pivotal game is at home with Central Arkansas November 7th. And last, I have Southeastern Louisiana as an at-large qualifier. Fast fact is this: the Lions were the only FCS teams to have 500-yard receivers a year ago. Their pivotal game is Central Arkansas at home on November the 14th. And that's Rob Butler, Open Mic Broadcast Network.
Open Mic Broadcast Network is an independent network that is dedicated to local community programming featuring sports, the gospel, community news, and much, much more. It is our endeavor to keep the community informed, enlightened, encouraged, and entertained. Our continued existence is solely predicated on those who donate toward our cause. The opportunity to give is a very simple process. You can visit our Open Mic Broadcast Network site at obnradio.com, click on the PayPal button, and become a supporter today. For those of you who would prefer to send in a donation, make all checks payable to Open Mic Broadcast Network, OPEN, capital MIC, Broadcast Network, P.O. Box 891, Prairie View, Texas, 77446. Thank you for your support. Thank you for spreading the word of the Open Mic Broadcast Network, serving the community through faith and athletics, the voice of student athletics since 2002. And welcome back to the Mike Prince Show here at the Open Mic Broadcast Network. Of course, our mission is to come to you each and every day with news that you can use. We have a plethora of programming that is right here for your enjoyment. Of course, the Carlos Brown Show, which is featured on Saturdays from 10 to 12 noon Central Standard Time. She Say Sports with Miss Sonia Stamps, featured on Fridays. The Delta Sports Report being featured by Mr. Terry Coleman. The Southland Sports Report, featured by Rob Butler, and the Barbershop to be featured by B.J. Jones. And, of course, you can join the Mike Prince Show live Sunday nights, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. Don't forget our scheduled guests will be Sheldon Hodge of 1978 FAMU Rattlers and former athletic director, men and women's basketball coach for the FAMU Rattlers, Mickey Clayton. Clayton was actually featured slightly last Sunday, but due to the heavy downpour of rain that was in his direction, we wanted to make sure that we had a better connection. You're going to love this guy's story and what he brings to the table now that FAMU is part of the Southwestern Athletic Conference. And speaking of that, FAMU has been shaking and rattling the cage, if you would, saying it's a new sheriff in town. Their fans have already come on board with full force with everything that's going on in regards of SWAC smack talk. So it's going to be exciting to hear and see how all of that comes in and out. Will FAMU have the impact anticipated, or will they have to make the adjustments to find their way? We'll see how things go. Meanwhile, there has been a resurgence, if you would, of African American ball players thinking twice and considering coming back to HBCU establishments, not only to compete on the athletic fields, but to get their education. Interesting move. Some say it should have never happened. Some say it took you long enough. And others are saying we'll wait and see what's going to be. But nonetheless, it's an awakening throughout the nation. And hopefully it's an awakening that will get some progress in the right direction. A lot of emotions are running high right now, and we want people, after the emotions have settled down, to remain focused and make sure that everyone is walking in the right direction toward equality. And speaking of equality, this week we broke down the budgets for athletics throughout the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and we'll quickly recap those for you. On top was Alabama State with a $13.6 million budget. Number 2 was Prairie View with $13.2 million budget. Number 3 was Texas Southern with a $12.3 million budget. Number 4, Alabama A&M, $11.7 million. Number 5 was FAMU, $10.7 million. Number 6 was Southern University, $9.9 million. Number 7 was Grambling State with $9.1 million. Number 8 was Arkansas Pine Bluff with $8.2 million. By the way, Arkansas Pine Bluff just announced on yesterday that they are disbanding their men and women's tennis team. Number 9 was Jackson State with a $7.7 million budget. Number 10, Alcorn State with a $7.1 million budget. Mississippi Valley with a $4.1 million budget. Now, when you look and listen at the different ranges of these budgets, isn't it strange that the number 10 athletic budget throughout the Southwestern Athletic Conference, which is Alcorn State, has been probably the most consistent and dominant football program across the gamut? What am I saying? Money is not always the bottom line answer. A system does matter. When you look at it from the top 4 athletic budgets throughout the conference, Alabama State, Prairie View, Texas Southern, and Alabama A&M. Alabama A&M is probably the program that has been on the uptick. The others have been somewhat classified as underachievers. The bright light, if you're Mississippi Valley, is that you're only $3 million beneath the budget of the top football program. I know that's easier said than done to make up $3 million. But if you were to make up half of that, which will bump you up to $5.6 million within the athletic food chain throughout the conference, I think you could be headed in the right direction. But there's another caveat to all of this. Every school throughout the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and let me just say FCS as a whole, need to pick one. Identify with the sport that you want to be associated with when people call out your institution. Invest in that sport and go for the gusto. Ideally, you want all your sports to be competitive. We know that. But we know that the money is spread thin. You have to pick your poison, invest in it, and develop systems and coaches to help your other teams. But I'm just a show host. Don't forget that we have a 24-hour on-demand message center, 720-721-1558. You can dial in, listen to rebroadcast programming, information, and news right at your fingertips. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. 720-721-1558. I am going to exit stage left for right now. I want to thank you guys so much for joining in with us. Thank you for keeping the torch burning here at the Open Mic Broadcast Network. And we do want to remind you that you could be a part of that movement in a financial way by visiting our website at obnradio.com. Go to the donation button and cast your donation today. Show your support today. For those of you who would prefer to use conventional mail, as we call it snail mail, you can make your donation out to Open Mic Broadcast Network, P.O. Box 891, Prairie View, Texas 77446. I've got to go. I must exit stage left. I am the radio guy, Dr. Mike Prince. As always, you guys be blessed. We'll see you on the other side.